Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. So, we were discussing Yavakalapi Sutta. Probably you can remember that we started with interesting similes from the Buddha, telling that this whole sensations coming through the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body and the mind. So Buddha metaphorically mentioned it like a sheaf of barley being struck by 7 what we call the flails. So this flail, as you can see, is a kind of a traditional tool which is used to smash certain grains, so that they are being slowly powdered, and they are first being separated from the plant, and then we are able to further trash it, further make it more and more powdered. So the simile represent some kind of a sense impingements: eye with the forms, ear with the sounds, nose with the smells, tongue with the taste, body with the tangibles, and mind with mind objects. So constantly we are being bombarded with these different sense objects. Apart from that, Buddha mentioned the people are used to think about the future. So they have various plans. They even plan about their next life. And probably we can link here about the past memories. So they tend to think about the past, worry about what has happened, and how they couldn't protect themselves, or how well they could do but they couldn't do. So likewise we have various regrets about the past. So likewise, related to the past and the future, there are a lot of thinking going on. So the first 6 are actually related to the present moment. Continuously we are being bombarded by various sense objects. On the other hand, we purposely think about the past and the future. So all that actually ultimately give a certain pressure to the mind, a kind of a torture to the mind. So this is what basically first simile Buddha represent. And then the next simile is related to a story. A kind of a battle happened between the Sura and the Asura, Devas and the Asuras, where the Devas actually won the battle, and they captured the Asura king, the lord of the Asura, called Vepachitti. And interestingly, how he being captured, how he being bound, is not using any kind of chains or shackles or ropes or any such kind of a mechanism. Rather, his very thinking is causing either for him to get released or to get bound. So if he thinks, okay, these Devas are righteous and the Asuras are unrighteous, I like to stay with the Devas without going to the Asura realm, then he will be released and he can stay with the Devas. But on the other hand, most probably his thought is the opposite, where Devas are unrighteous, Asuras are righteous. I want to escape from the Devas and I want to go back to the Asura realm. So whenever he thinks like that, basically he further being bound, and his shackles are further tightened, and he being subject to some kind of a suffering at that moment. So Buddha therefore emphasize, so this bonding is particularly related to his thinking. The way he think either bound him or either release him. So likewise, Buddha emphasize, such subtle is the bondage of the Vepachitti, even subtler is the bondage of the Mara. So the way that we think causes us to bound by the Mara. So Buddha gives 5 possibilities how these bonding can happen, how these capturing can happen, how we become enslaved to the Mara. So Buddha explained 5 such possibilities, And there for each possibility he is giving 9 examples, 9 propositions. And those are, again, we can see extremely subtle. I am this, I shall be, I shall not be, I shall consist of form, I shall be formless, I shall be percipient, I shall be non-percipient, I shall be neither percipient nor non-percipient. So all these things are basically very, very subtle thinking aspects going through in our mind. So most often we may be thinking that there is a person here, an individual here, I am a self, and based on such self-centered thinking we tend to think, but unfortunately that cause Mara to capture us. We become a kind of a victim under his prey. Now we were discussing 5 such possibilities. Now already we discussed imagining, conceiving, where the manyita, how we imagine that there is a self, there is a person, there is an individual, and based on that how we are thinking, so that we already discussed. And then during the last week we discussed about the agitation happened because of the craving, and when there is some kind of a temptation because of the craving, some sort of a desire available in the mind, we again and again shifted either towards a form, to the sound, to the smells, taste, touching, or even for any kind of a thinking. Because the mind is under a continuous agitation coming through these desires. Again and again we are being pulled towards various sense objects, because they are very attractive, they are kind of tempting, and we become kind of agitated because the mind is not resting. Instead, mind become more restless. And so this emotional appeal coming from the these kind of temptations ultimately make the mind unhappy, and it subject to wandering. It can't rest. So the cause basically is the tanha, the craving. So whenever there is craving, it can lead to upadana, the clinging, the grasping, and it is a cause for eye making, mind making, all these comparisons. So that will be the other result. And we discussed that also during last week. And now we can get on to the third one. So that is called palpitation or pandita. So the mind is in a continuous vibration in a way, kind of a movement. So there's a restless mental activity. So when one attaches to beings something which is actually subject to change. Now this is the interesting part. We are always expecting some kind of a emotional safety. So we need a kind of a safety, and therefore we attach to someone or something. Say for as example, as infants, we are attached to our parents, our mother, our father. So we are so attached to them, we are so dependent on them. But in case they go through some kind of a unfortunate situation, kind of a tragedy, then the infants become completely helpless, completely bewildered, and so they start suffering because their minds are so attached, so they are so dependent on the parents. On the other hand, as we are growing, so we start having other relationships, maybe with our family members, with school friends, various other friends, and so we now has various other attachments. But in case one of them subject to any kind of a tragic situation, then we also get affected because we are so attached to them. We are so dependent on them. And we want them to behave in a certain way, but unfortunately they can't behave in that way. So ultimately we are going to suffer because to whom that we are attached to are unable to maintain that state forever. So whatever the state that we are attached to is unable to maintain that state forever because these are changing phenomena. But knowingly or unknowingly we attach. We think, okay, we can gain safety, we can gain continuous satisfaction from these changing situations, changing people, but they are unable to maintain that. So that's the issue. So they are unable to maintain that, and ultimately we being suffering because those conditions are continuously changing. Now we can see certain examples coming from various places in the canon. So Buddha particularly mentions, say for example in Dhammapada, Pandanang chapalang chittang, durakkang dun nivarayang, ujung karoti medhavi usukarova tejana. Now this is a very interesting verse. Pandanang chapalang chittang. So pandanang. So the mind is restless, mind is agitating. And chapalang, it can't maintain a kind of a straight behavior. It's having some crooked type of behavior. And durakkang, it's difficult to protect. Dun nivarayan, and it's very difficult to prevent it from defilements. Again and again it is attracted to various defilements. It tries to even enjoy the defilements. Say for example, if mind is going through certain lustful thoughts, probably you may recognize it, but it is giving certain amount of delight, and so one is not prompted to quickly abandon it. Rather, it likes to enjoy because of the delight. So we can see that the preventing the mind from defilements is really hard. Ujung karoti medhavi usukarova tejanam. So Buddha anyway mentioned the one who is really intelligent, really wise. So that person, that wise person is somehow straightening this mind, like a person who is straightening the arrows. Now certain other suttas. Now let's get into to the bottom of the point here. Now why these things are changing is really explained in this Dutiya Dvaya Sutta in the Sangyutta Nikaya. So there Buddha go to the bottom, very source, how things are happening. Dvayam bhikkhave paticca viññānaṁ sambhoti. Now he is going to explain us how the consciousness being generated. So as a result of two reasons, two causes, the particular consciousness being generated. Katancha bhikkhave dvayam paticca viññānaṁ sambhoti. So what are the two things? Chakkuncha paticca rupecha uppaji chakku viññāna. Now he is talking about the eye consciousness. So the eye consciousness happen because the form and the eye come into line. So they come into the same line, and now we also have the attention and again the light. So those are the additional conditions. So when all these are satisfied, then the chakku viññāna, the eye consciousness arise. Chakku aniccang viparinami anyata bhavi. Now he is explaining the situation. Chakku, the eye is actually an impermanent case. So it can't stay as it is. And it is through various biological system that is the eye is actually operating, and all that are subject to change. And similarly rupa anicca viparinamino anyasa bhavino. So all the outside forms are also vulnerable, they are also changing. Ittetan dvayam paticca vyatancha aniccang viparinami anyata bhavi chakku viññānaṁ aniccang viparinami anyata bhavi. Now based on those two conditions, when impermanent two conditions, that the chakku viññāna, the eye consciousness being generated, how can the chakku viññāna, the eye consciousness, could be permanent? Yopi hetu yopi paccayo chakku viññāna suppadāya sopi hetu sopi paccayo anicco viparinami anyata bhavi. Now he is giving a kind of a logic. Now if the causes are impermanent, if they are vulnerable, if they are transient, their product, that is the chakku viññāna, eye consciousness, also obviously become viparinami anyata bhavi. So that is also subject to change, that is also impermanent, it also become otherwise. Yako bhikkhave imesang tinnang dhammanang sangati sannipato samavayo ayang uccati chakku sampassu. Now he is going to the next level. Now, when these three constituents happening again and again, that means eye, form, chakku viññāna, they occur again and again. So then we feel it's like a continuous entity, and that accumulation, that conglomeration of the parts ultimately give a sense of contact, eye contact, chakku sampassa. And here Buddha mentioned, so that chakku sampassa also is impermanent because the constituent parts are impermanent. So they are subject to change. The source, the cause, the particles, whoever the ingredients, when they are changing, they are subject to change. So how can the product be unchanging? How can the product be permanent? So that too will become subject to change. So likewise, Buddha argue here the eye consciousness and then the eye contact are also impermanent. Now interestingly, all the other products like putto bhikkave vedeti, putto ceteti, putto sanjanati. Now all the different kinds of feelings are based on this contact. All different kinds of cetana, the volitional thinking, are also based on this contact. And similarly, any kind of recognition also based on this contact. Now we can see these are in a way some prominent mental characteristics, feelings, and then volitional thinking, and again the recognition. All that are fairly recognizable states, but they are a product, an outcome, a result of the contact. When the contact is changing, how come the products are unchanging? So here we can see itte tampi dhamma chalacheva vyat chalacheva vyacha anicca viparinamino anyata bhavi. So the eye contact too is impermanent, changing, becoming otherwise. The cause and the condition for the arising of eye contact is also impermanent, changing and becoming otherwise. When bhikkhu's eye contact has arisen independence on a condition that is impermanent, how could it be permanent? Contacted bhikkhus one feels, contacted one intends, contacted one perceives. Thus these things too are moving and tottering, impermanent, changing, becoming otherwise. Now this is the Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation. So basically we can understand all these sensual and mental arena is completely in a vibrant situation. It's continuously in a changing situation, transient situation, because the constituent parts, the ingredients are constantly in vibration, constantly in kind of a change. So therefore it is obvious, so we can't expect some sort of continuity, in a way the constant, unchanging, eternal type of continuity in anywhere, because the all constituent parts are utterly changing. They are transient. Now if we are attached to any of these changing phenomena, expecting some sort of a satisfaction, expecting some sort of a safety, then what happened to us? So that is where the issue. So our minds are tend to attached, our minds are tend to grasp, and what we have to grasp is constantly changing. What we have to hold is continuously changing. Then we being dependent on them, ultimately we are the ones going to suffer. We are expecting kind of a permanent happiness, we are expecting some kind of a permanent safety, but those conditions are changing, so we are ultimately suffering. Now this is very well explained in certain other suttas. Now here if we can see the Channovada Sutta, so we are Venerable Ananda actually reminding very profound teaching to Venerable Channa, who is going through his last stage of his life. And actually during that occasion, Venerable Sariputta and Venerable Ananda going to meet Venerable Channa, and they understood, okay, his situation is pretty bad. So ultimately Venerable Ananda thought of delivering a very profound teaching. It's in the Majjhima Nikaya, Channovada Sutta. So there he emphasized, okay, Channa, you better reflect like this. Nisitassa chalitang, anisitassa chalitang nati. So whenever there is some sort of a dependency, there is a certain wavering. But anisitassa chalitang nati. But if there is no dependency, if one is able to be independent, that means the mind is completely independent, then there is no wavering. Anisitassa chalitang nati. Chalite asati passaddi. Now this is a further continuation of the outcome. So when there is no any such wavering, any such kind of palpitation, then what happens is there is a kind of tranquility. Mental tranquility, bodily tranquility. Passadya sati nati nohoti. So when such tranquility is available, the mind doesn't want to go here and there and doesn't want to become lean onto anything, bias onto anything. Rather, it become fairly settled. Nati nohoti. So the temptation coming through craving is not there because internal satisfaction is available. There is no restlessness. Instead, there is a settling. There is a fairly settled experience. Stillness in the mind. So this still mind is a happy mind. It's a contented mind. Now, natya asati agati gati nohoti. So therefore, when there is no any inclination, there is no any movement. The mind doesn't want to jump from here to there, from past to future, future to past, and even in the present moment there is no any kind of a shifting of the mind. Rather, it is completely restful, still, and as a result of that, there is no any movement, coming and going. Agati gati asati chutupavato nohoti. When there is no coming and going, there is no passing away and reappearing, passing away and again arising. Now here it is not merely passing away in the sense you are dying at the as a death, the conventional death. Rather here we are not being born into another new mental state, a conditioned state, intentional, willful state, what we call as the bhava, the existence. Now you can see throughout the day, we are again and again getting to this state of existence. At one occasion, you being driven by certain sights, and you become a viewer, you become a spectator, and you are there. You are being fully born to that. At another occasion, you become a listener, and you are enjoying certain music, and you are a listener there. You are born as a listener. At certain other occasions, say you are smelling something and so beautiful, so fantastic, and you become a person enjoying that. At another occasion, you may be enjoying certain food, delicious food, and you become that. At another occasion, you are going through some very pleasant experience through the body, and you are fully absorbed to that. At another occasion, even the five sense typical sensual impingements are not prominent, still your mind is thinking. Mind may be thinking about past, and you are worrying and you become that. At another occasion, you are fantasizing and you become another kind of a living in a fantasy world. So likewise, again and again throughout the day, we are in a different existence. Even though we say now we are in the human realm, while being in the human realm, we are going to various different mental states. So they are, by the way, all impermanent, but we sought after some sort of satisfaction from all those impermanent states. Again and again, we are trying to get some happiness through getting to those. But here, the opposite is happening. Mind is fully settled. Mind is in stillness. Mind enjoys that calmness, that tranquility. So mind doesn't want to jump now. It doesn't want to move. It doesn't want to go here and there. Rather, being still, it is happy. That's very interesting. Being still, it is happy. And when there is no movement, there is no coming and going, there is no any arising and passing away, or being born and then die, so dying, and that is not there. So the mind is in a complete rest. Chutupapate asati neva idana hurang na ubhemantarena esevanto dukkasa. So when there is no passing away or reappearing, there is no here, no beyond, no in between. Now this is the end of suffering. Now you are not making a self out of the experience. You are merely experiencing without an observer, without an experiencer. And that is where the suffering ends. Now this is a very profound statement by the Buddha, and it seems that monks used to use that during very difficult situations to remind them, okay, this is what I have to maintain. This is where the mind has to be established. So where there is no object in a way, there is no form, sound, smell, taste, tangible, thought. So the mind is utterly free, not associating anything, not latch on to anything, not landed upon anything. So we can say the appatittita viññāna. The mind is completely unestablished. And here there are other occasions that the Buddha further highlighted that in Dvaitanupassana Sutta, in Sutta Nipata, Anissito na chalati, nissito cha upadiyam. Itta bhava anyata bhavang sansarang nati vattati. So Buddha mentioned Anissito na chalati. If there is no any kind of a dependency, if one is completely independent, if the one's mind is completely free, there is no chalana, there is no any sort of movement, agitation. Nissitocha upadiyang ittabhavanyata bhavang sansarang nati vatati. On the opposite, when there is some sort of an attachment, grasping, holding, for such person, there is some sort of coming and going. Coming to this life, coming to the next life, coming to this moment, going to another moment, coming to this existence, going to another existence. So this sansara is continuously going on. There is no escape. There is no freedom from the sansara. You are being under the grip of the Mara. Etamadinava ñatva nissayesu mahabhayang anissito anupadano sato bhikkhu paribhajeti. So therefore Buddha mentioned, so when the monk, the one who is practicing, knowing this danger, nissayesu mahabhayang. So it's a really great danger to have any kind of a nissaya, any kind of an association, any kind of a dependency. So he trying to keep the mind in anissita anupadana state. That means not grasping and not associating. As much as possible, mind is in a restful state without holding on to anything. Sato bhikkhu paribhaje. Ever mindful. So this practitioner, this yogi is now continuing his life. So the mindfulness is the key here, in a way that showing where the mind is tempted to latch on to. Because even though our motivation is to keep the mind free, unattached, without any grasping, habitual tendencies are again and again pulling us to something. It may be to a sound, to a smell, taste, tangible, thought. So that is the habitual tendency. But the mindfulness will tell us, indicate us, okay, again the fellow is going to this, going to that. So at that moment we have to wisely act upon it, and we have to establish mindfulness so that the mind behaves well. Probably you can remember we were discussing Indriya Bhavana Sutta. So there are the practice is again and again highlighted by the Buddha. So whenever the mind being agitated because of certain sight, and you may be thrilled, you may be happy, you may be elated. Now Buddha advised, don't stay there. So come back to that stillness, come back to that calmness, come back to that simple equanimity. Etan santang, etam panitang, yadidang upekha. So it is sublime, it is calm, it is relaxed, It is equanimous. So come to that. There is no agitation there. So likewise, this unagitated state of mind is something that Buddha again and again highlighted, and basically advised the yogi to stay there as long as possible. But our sense impingements again and again kind of drive us towards the other objects, so that again and again mind can become agitated. Can't help. But our motive has to be to return to that unagitated state, that calm state, that relaxed state, that home position of the mind. Just stay there. But it appears like very boring. That is another complaint that often we can hear. So that that state is very boring. That's why we are tempted to listen to something, we are tempted to listen to music, listen to news, browse through various sites, browse through the YouTube, and get involved with the Facebook and all various social media. So because that calm, relaxed, quiet state is boring. That's also another situation. But the problem is all those sense impingements, as we already discussed, are not dependable. They are continuously subject to change, and even though we expect happiness, even though we expect some sort of a behavior from those sights, sounds, smells, tastes, tangibles, they can't maintain it. They can't give that protection. They can't provide that safety. That's the issue. We are being again and again pulled to those sense objects, expecting some satisfaction, expecting some safety, expecting some emotional safety, but unfortunately they are unable to provide it. So if we are so attached to them, when they are changing, we are subject to suffering. That's the bottom line. So if you are attached to something which is changing, which is vulnerable, which is transient, so you are going to suffer, because that very object, that very person, that very phenomena is unable to provide that, because he alone, she alone, that object alone is in a completely helpless situation. It may be climate, it may be our, say, health situation, it may be our loved ones, it may be any condition, phenomena, maybe our social status, maybe the government, maybe financial status, maybe our job. So many conventional stuff are available to which that we attach to, expecting some sort of a safety, expecting some sort of a satisfaction. But we have to be careful. We never know when they are going to change, when they are going to change otherwise. So if we are so attached, if we are so absorbed, if we are so dependent, we are the ones going to suffer. Now this attachment, this dependency actually causes the mind to start thinking. That's the other side that we need to discuss. So in the Yavakalapi Sutta, so Buddha mentioned, so this because of this agitation, mind start thinking, I am this, I am become conscious, I am become, say, percipient, I am going to be non-percipient. So likewise, many different way, thinking process being triggered because of this kind of a agitation. When the mind is in a certain agitation, further thinking is triggered. Now say for example, you are having a relationship. Now when you are having a relationship, you are expecting your partner to behave in a certain way, and that is your most likable, most appreciable state of your partner, and you expect certain behavior from him or her, and that's why you loved him or her, and you expect that behavior from him, from that partner. But unfortunately, whenever that partner behaves differently, you are going to suffer. And when that being known to you, you start thinking, why he is behaving like this? Why she is behaving like this? I don't like that. This is wrong. why, how dare she is doing like this? So like that, we start thinking, we start subject to some sort of complaining, because we are so attached to a situation which is vulnerable. We are attached to an individual who is so vulnerable. And it is not because of his own, behavior, but that is the very nature of this whole conditioned phenomena. So we all are, in a way, in a continuous flux, a changing flux, but unfortunately we are expecting a permanency in this changing flux. So the ultimate result is, in a way, thinking. So you start thinking again and again because of this agitation. Whenever the dependent part, it may be the partner, it may be the object, whoever, whatever situation, so whenever it is subject to change, we start thinking. We start complaining, we start panicking, we start crying, we start worrying, we become anxious. It can even lead to a kind of a mental breakdown, and you start crying, lamenting, end of despair, all sorts of suffering is there. So here Buddha, in a way, warns us, panditam bhikkhave rogo, panditam gando, panditam sallam. Amongst this palpitation in the mind is a kind of a disease. It's a kind of a gando, a kind of a tumor. Panditang sallang is a dart. Tasmatiha bhikkhave apanda manena chetasa viharissa mati evam hivo bhikkhave sikkitabang. So monks, you should behave in a way, restrain yourself in such a way that I am keeping the mind without agitation. I am keeping the mind free from any palpitation. So in order to do that, actually we need to first fairly practice vipassana, so that we are able to keep a mind free from any attachment. So it is obvious, in case we are attached to something, any kind of a conditioned phenomena, we start subject to suffering, subject to palpitation. Because palpitation, this agitation, this kind of pandana happens because of the attachment. Nissitassa chalitang. Whenever we are attached, whenever we are dependent, then it is unable to stop palpitation, unable to stop any kind of an agitation. So therefore, it is essential for us to practice vipassana and to understand the true nature of these phenomena and to educate the mind. Okay, there is no purpose. It is not worthy of attaching to anything. Not worthy of attached to anything. And as a result of that, mind slowly start letting go and trying to be independent, maintaining kind of a very relaxed, still awareness, and that can be some sort of a refuge. And while being there, we need to recognize whatever the existing traits or tendencies still available in the mind, and slowly we need to abandon those as well. But first of all, at least to understand this non-grasping state of mind, at least time to time, even though we are unable to maintain it continuously, at least time to time, if we are able to recognize this non-grasping state of the mind, anissita anupadana state, not associating anything, not grasping anything in the world. So you can remember that the Buddha's emphasis in Satipatthana Sutta. So as a result of practicing Satipatthana, so this is what he is in a way promising us. So whenever you are practicing Satipatthana, your mind is able to maintain such a state where mind is not grasping anything in the world and not associating anything in the world. Anissito anupadano. Anissitocha viharati nachakinchi loke upadite. Now the yogi is able to maintain his mind without associating anything and not grasping anything in the world. This is the outcome of the Satipatthana practice in a way. So therefore, it is true that we are trying to maintain the mind free from any sort of palpitation, but we are unable to do that just by mere will, just by mere determination, but we need certain amount of wisdom, some experiential wisdom. So that experiential knowledge being taken from the Satipatthana practice. So Satipatthana practice is a kind of a ground, kind of a field for us to work on, and as a result of that practice we are able to educate our mind, enlighten our mind. So no point of grasping, no point of attaching to anything. So then mind slowly let go of the grasping, and at least for a certain moment it enjoys non-grasping state, a free state, independent state, where there is no any agitation, there is no any grasping, there is no any suffering, there is no any I making, mind making, any existence, the creating of any becoming. None of them are there. Rather, mind is in a complete stillness, complete kind of a tranquility. That tranquility is not based on grasping another conceptual object like in the samatha. Rather, here we are in vipassana, that without grasping anything, by letting go of everything, now mind becomes still, having nothing basically. So with that note, I like to conclude today's Sutta teaching session. So here we can see a very interesting and profound teaching delivered by the Buddha, and let's try ourselves to take some advice from the Sutta and keep our mind in an ungrasping state as much as possible.
Bhante, sadhu, sadhu. I can make Venerable Dhammadasa with a question.
Therwan Sarnai Swamin Wahanse.
Yeah, Therwan Sarnai. How are you doing?
We are doing a little bit better, given our situation yesterday.
Yeah. So you got medicine and now things are getting better, right?
Yes. Or let me say, it might take 2 or 3 days to know for sure whether things are getting better.
Okay.
So to move on to my comment today, while you were going through the recap of what we discussed last time, where you were introducing the Yavakalapi Sutta, and you were talking about Vayapachiti's bondage, it occurred to me that if you read the sutta once or 2 times or 3 times, or let's say even maybe 10 times, and you think about this story of Vayapachiti, one might think that if Vayapachiti just thinks that, the devas are virtuous and the asuras are not virtuous, then he will be the 5 chords of sensual pleasure will be available to him, and he will be happy and he will dwell with the devas. So once you read the sutta a few times, then you would think this is the good thing for Vayapachiti. You should just accept that the devas are virtuous, and these 5 chords of sensual pleasures will be available to him and he will be free. But thinking about it more critically, this is just one of the conceivings that the Buddha says is still a bondage of Mara. So it doesn't matter whether he thinks that the devas are virtuous and the asuras are not virtuous, or the opposite. Whatever he conceives, he will still be in a bondage.
Of the Mara.
Because it is one, we can say it is one of those 9 types of conceiving that the Buddha gave.
Exactly.
However, if he frees himself from any kind of conceiving,
correct,
nothing about devas, nothing about asuras there, then maybe Vayapachiti will be free from the bondage of Mara.
Exactly. Very interesting point that you are highlighting. So one way of thinking, interestingly, he can be free from the sura, from the devas. So as you mentioned, if the Vayapachiti thinks, okay, devas are righteous, asuras are unrighteous, then he can be free from the the devas, but still he being captured by the Mara. That's very interesting. Yeah, because he is still conceiving. He still think, okay, I am good, asuras are good. The devas are good, asuras are bad. Now here still he is conceptually proliferating. Conceptually he is thinking. Still he is bound by the Mara. Though he is free from the devas, still he is bound by the Mara. Very interesting point that you have highlighted, Dhammosada.
Yeah, I just wanted to share that. So thank you very much.
Yeah, Thero Sannai. So that's in a way interesting thing is sometimes we come to an extreme. Okay, we shouldn't think anything because whatever thinking has some sort of a connection towards a Mara, towards this captivity. So we better avoid any sort of thinking. So this is another extreme that one can get into. But I think it also has to be some sort of a gradual implementation rather than trying to immediately, take it to a kind of a mental vacuum, rather than trying to make like that. So Buddha encourages us to think proper way and to avoid or to minimize any kind of wrong defilements. Okay, you think positively. Say for example, if the mind is going through lustful thoughts, okay, the opposite way of thinking can free the mind from lustful thoughts. Say you are thinking about the loathsomeness and all this side of stuff, and then the mind can be free from that captivity from the lust. On the other hand, if the mind is under the influence of the ill will, okay, you can develop loving kindness. So that is also a type of thinking. But here the yogi is still in a state where his mind is not yet come to the fairly advanced emptiness of the mind, came through the wisdom. Rather, he is still working at another level. Mind is getting to some sort of thinking, but it is harmful. And now he is thinking in opposite way, so that his harmful thinking is fairly stopped. Now, once the mind is free from that harmful thinking, assume now the mind is thinking in a positive way, mind is thinking in a wholesome way. Are we able to stop that wholesome thinking as well? Now, that is the interesting part. Now, if you are continuously thinking wholesome way, there again Buddha mentioned, okay, this thinking can be a burden to the mind. It can sort of give a tiresome experience to the mind. Okay, how about keeping the mind quiet? So that doesn't mean that we are trying to forcefully keep the mind in a vacuum, kind of in a silence. Rather, by understanding the repercussion, understanding the comparative advantage, now you are trying to keep the mind quiet, because now there is no any captivity, there is no any unwholesome qualities, mind is fairly free. Okay, now try to keep the mind in a tranquility. Now therefore we have to take it in a proper practical way, rather than we imposing ourselves that I should not think. So that is not the wise or skillful way of taking the teaching. Rather, when it is necessary, you are free to think in a more appropriate, more beneficial way. And at another level, if you think, okay, now I am capable of keeping the mind free from thinking, which is more beautiful, more sublime, and more restful, okay, you are better to keep like that.
Right, Bhante, sadhu.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bhante. For the next question, I'd like to invite Ratika.
Thank you, Jennifer. Bhante, you can hear me?
Yes.
Theruvan Saranai, Bhante.
Yep.
I just want to ask you, when you say that you will be bound by the bonds of Mara, you are talking about the defilements here, right? You're not talking about, I know somewhere it says there are 5 types of things that the Buddha used the word Mara. One of them is some being in one of the realms.
Mm-hmm.
But when you say you're bound by Mara, are you meaning the defilements like the Anusaya Dharma, like the Anusaya Kilesa, Vitikama, Paritana, like that, and the Asravas that we are bound by, right?
That's
What is this Mara you are using? Which of the five are you? What are you using the term Pamara?
I think we can use everything here, not just one defilement. So the Kilesa Mara is what you are referring here. Kilesa Mara, the defilement aspect of the mind. So the mind is now free from the Kilesa Mara, that is true. And then how about the, say, Machu Mara, the death? Now the interesting thing is, now as we can see, when we are not making a self, then who is going to die? So, I mean, please keep it in mind that we are talking now at a different level, not at the conventional level. At a conventional level, obviously the body will go through the death that we can't avoid. But if the mind is capable of keeping at a level where you are not making a self, if there is no self being generated, then even the Machu Mara can't defeat you, because there is no self being generated. There is no one to die. There is no individual to die. There is no person to die. Rather, you have gone through a state, okay, mind is not making a self. There is no I is there, no self is there. As a result of that, there is no person to die. So therefore, we can argue, okay, even you can be free from the Machu Mara. That's another aspect. And then another Mara explanation, another definition is what we call the Skandha Mara. Skandha Mara. Skandha Mara means the aggregates. Okay, when you are attached to an aggregate, you are grasping form aggregate, feeling aggregate, perception aggregate, formations aggregate, consciousness aggregate, then we are under the grip of the Mara. But here we can see none of the aggregates being attached, none of the aggregates being grasped. So we can see you are free from the Skandha Mara as well, because no grasping is available. So the aggregates are operating, but they are mere aggregates, but you are not grasping, you are not bothered by them, because they go through their own way of operation, their way of behavior, but you are not being bothered, you are free from them. So in a way we can argue you are free from the Skandha Mara as well. And that's another type of Mara, I can't remember. Devaputta Mara is, of course, what you refer. Devaputta Mara is the one who is as an individual, who is living in the what you call Paranimmita Vasavatti as a Deva realm. So probably he can come and disturb you. But here is a different story. But we can argue in a way the other four types of Mara can be defeated by this way of practice.
But to come to this stage permanently, it's only an Arahant.
Yeah, that I agree.
Might be there for a moment, or to retreat for a little while, but we are not going to be in this state of nothingness, or not nothingness, but no nimitta, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you use this choiceless awareness, you don't attach to anything.
Mm-hmm. So that's the encouragement.
So all the other four also will be there.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Theruvan Saranai, Swami Wahansa.
Yeah, Theruvan Saranai.
Thank you. I'd like to invite Andrad for the next question.
Thank you, Jennifer. Theruvan Saranai. Bhakti, can you hear me?
Yes.
Bhakti, this is just a personal query, nothing regarding the meditation. It's just about like a personal issue. It's about a neighbor actually, who's sort of, I say he's sort of bothering us. I just want to know how to react in this sort of situation. He's becoming a hassle, so we can just call the council and just probably report him. But before that, we just want to find out, because now we are following this path, so we just sort of feel guilty, we are debating between whether to ask him to stay. He's parked illegally and he's dwelling there. So we just want to know what sort of advice we can get from Dhamma perspective. it's sort of like they're guilty to like report him as well. And so I just don't know how to handle that situation.
So probably, I don't know, if you can approach him and explain him the situation and how you be in trouble because of this, and give her some sort of a warning before going to the council or to the police and complain. You can try to sort it out in a more say personal way without giving him much trouble. So you can explain, okay, we are going through some trouble because of your behavior, please can you change your whatever it's a way. So like that you can first try to negotiate and give some sort of a warning in if possible.
But what if he's in not a stable mental condition? So that's another issue. Like if the person's not in, like, I don't know, because he might, we suspect that, so that, then how do we approach that sort of situation?
Yeah, then we have to have some sort of sympathy also, because we know that person is not really doing it intentionally, rather his mental condition is also poor. And probably then you can refer to, if he know that his doctor, any family doctor or any neighbor, any other, his relatives, his parents or whoever, relations, then you can tell them, okay, this is the situation, see that this person is going through this kind of a mental issue, so can you all help? So in that way I think we can approach.
So I'm just wondering, in case we report the council and he can get help from them, because over here it's like once you report, they try to approach him or her and then give the required necessary help. So would that be just aligning with the the path we are following? So would that be a big issue that might make?
That's the thing. Rather than telling that he's making a mistake, rather you can approach and tell, okay, can you help this person because he's having some mental issue, and because here the intention is not that to make him offended, rather to help him because he is going through some mental disability.
The actual situation, Bhante, is because he's dwelling there. He's parked illegally and he has just a caravan, I think, and he's dwelling there. So it's he's living there pretty much.
I see.
So it's just we feel he's going to lose his house, where he's living. And he's obviously using our water and all that. So even that to be we are okay. So far we've been okay. But it's just it's going out of control now. He's trespassing and all that. So just want but then again, it's the Dhamma thing comes to our mind, and then it's sort of no, let him stay. But then, it's just two conflicting things at the moment. So that's why. So I guess it's okay to report just compassionate with wisdom, I guess, right? Is that okay, Bhante?
Probably if you can talk to him, if you can talk to him and come to a kind of a negotiation, let him understand, okay, we are so far we are helping you and I'm providing all these facilities, I mean we are all right, but maintain certain kind of a limit, and that way tell him about the limitations, what is the boundary, and then it's better. Otherwise things can get into a uncontrollable state.
Okay, I think I sort of got the answer. Thank you, Bhante. That's what I wanted to find out. Thank you. Thero Sannai.
Thank you. For the next question, let's invite Yasala.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Bhante. Bhante, I actually would like to discuss a Kamatahan report with regard to some of my daily experience. Yes. So Bhante, actually, I would say it's more like clarity in the day-to-day activities that I encounter. I just would like to share that. I kind of attribute that to the practice I do and also these conversations and things. So this experience is actually, Bhante, with regard to, let's say, example as a body. So if I take that, what I notice these days is that, let's say this is the example, not the real situation, let's say if there's a pain in my body part, let's say legs. Previously, I used to relate that pain to some other sickness. Then I kind of connect one to other, then start predicting how it can get even worse. With the time and in the future. So this sickness might cause that to happen, and so on. And like what you mentioned in the Dhamma session today, has been creating many bhava, many becoming.
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of, I would say that it has been there before. But now, I wouldn't say recently, but what I what I can kind of clearly see is that now when there is such a pain, let's say again when there's a leg pain, I can look at it as a leg pain without adding any of other values into that.
Mm-hmm.
I can see there is a pain, and then that way the pain may continue or go away, either way.
Mm-hmm.
But I can notice that at least my mind is not heavy.
Correct.
With it.
Correct.
And no thoughts going through and making the stories.
Right.
Kind of I feel lighter.
Right.
Yes.
I think that is the best we can do. That is the best we can do. Basically, that is what Buddha expects us to do also. Probably you can remember that the Nakulapita Sutta, where when this Nakulapita comes and talking to the Buddha, telling that I am really old now, I am really sick, often I get sick, I am unable to come and see you and the Sangha as before. So I am now in a really terrible situation. Now at that moment Buddha mentioned, yes, I can understand. But the interesting thing is how to maintain a healthy mind in an unhealthy body. Because you know that we can't have the body healthy forever, because it's a changing body. It is a body which is subject to various diseases and aging process, decaying process, and ultimately death. That is the destiny of the body. You can't stop that. But while the body is going through such kind of a situation, are we able to maintain a mind which is free from suffering? So that is the challenge. That is where the Buddha's teaching really, shines. So all this our practice we should use in such a way that while the body is going through aging, suffering, sickening and all that, and even the death, are we able to maintain the mind free from suffering? So as you are now trying to explain and try to to achieve it, so that is the target in a way, because it is obvious that we can't stop the body's aging and suffering and all that, but we have certain amount of capacity to take the mind to a non-suffering state because of the practice.
Right. Yes. Thank you, Bhante. Because initially I thought, before I give this report today, I thought whether is there really something to tell here? Maybe there's nothing much. Mm-hmm. But then actually, Bhante, when the more and more I experience, I really feel light on that side of the things actually.
Right.
So because of that, I thought no, I think it's better. It's good to share. Yes. Thank you, Bhante, for the advice.
Yeah. Because these are in a way kind of
Yes, please.
Yeah, because these are encouraging, because we all as practitioners, we are sharing our experiences and we are talking openly about ups and downs of the practice, and it's in a way kind of motivates others also. Okay, we all are trying. We are not arahants, but we are trying our best to implement the teaching, to practice the teaching. So slowly we become successful, and as you said, okay, certain situations are there, maybe unbearable, the body is decaying, the aging, and even in the nowadays the Sri Lanka is going through certain catastrophic situation, but all that in a way are examples where can we keep the mind free from agitation, can we keep the mind free from any depression, can we keep the mind free from any kind of a suffering while the situations are not really favorable. So that is the challenge. So we can't expect the favorable situations every time. Definitely we have to go through some unfavorable, catastrophic situations. But challenge is to maintain the mind free from suffering.
Yes. Thank you, Bhante.
Yeah.
In fact, Bhante, towards the end of the Dhamma sermon, you mentioned about the thoughts coming because of the situation that our thoughts keep on coming. And you actually took one example of the job in the work. Actually, I would say I'm probably kind of going through something like that. Maybe I can share the experience in about another few months' time. But for the moment, I feel I'm happy with the way I face it. Yes.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Bhante.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Merit. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Thero Sanai.
Okay, thank you. Let's invite Nissarana, the next question.
I wanted to share an experience today, and I think I remembered or with the Sutta sessions that we are following. So today, Bhante, I think during our work time on Sunday, I was actually in a very good state. I would say, there was nothing really bothering me. Then suddenly I noticed a thought or a few thoughts came into my mind. Suddenly thought came, I need this new skill. And then what happened was, then the next thought comes, I'm not going to get this skill from this place. Then I realized, I think very soon, that my, I don't know, I'm saying my state, like say I was in a very neutral or good state, it became quite negative. So what I then realized was, okay, I couldn't stop at the, I guess, let's say this is a negative thought. I couldn't stop at the first instance and says, this skill is required. That's a different thought. I could have said something and I would get it in another way or whatever. But rather I went to the negative way and had many or few thoughts or many. And then I realized my state changed, right? So what I did, Bhante, was I actually then, I couldn't go into the state of not thinking because already my outlook had changed from I guess a neutral or good state to like a very negative state, which was bothering me. And then what I thought was, I thought in a more positive way rather than, I know it's not thinking,
right,
but in a very positive way.
Correct.
To get me out of that state.
Exactly.
I just wanted to share that experience.
Yeah. That is what I like to highlight also as at the end of the sutta, end of the sutta teaching. So it is not that Buddha completely prohibit thinking. That's what we need to clearly understand. But skillful way of thinking is in a way encouraged. So as you clearly mentioned, so when you feel, okay, now the mind is thinking wrongly, in an unwholesome negative way, okay, you better purposely, willfully, intentionally think the opposite, so that mind come back to the very positive, very calm, or say in a kind of a at least free from the unhappiness and coming to at least to a neutral state. And then we can work on the other side. When the mind has recovered, then we can go in for another state, further sublime, very calm, further quiet, further still state is another stage. But first of all, we need to come out of the depressive state. If the mind is going through some depressive, really negative, really harmful way of thinking, definitely we have to come out of it using various mechanisms, various techniques that really welcome. We don't need to be afraid of that. And sometimes even we may have to think about ourselves as a person, as an individual. I did these things good, these good things, I did these, say, really beneficial things. Okay, these are my good characteristics, these are my strengths, all like that. In a way appear like we are promoting some kind of a self. But currently, because of the current situation, we may be unable to immediately abandon that self. First of all, we have to have in a way kind of a healthy self. Then we can work in a further advanced way to abandon that self either. So that's another level. That's why even now you can see in Buddha's teaching, Buddha talks about the Sammaditthi at two different levels. Laukika Sammaditthi and the Lokottara Sammaditthi. In the Laukika Sammaditthi, first of all, Buddha encourages us to be a good person. So don't get into bad situations. Rather, you be a good person, and you do something good, and you become more generous, and you understand. Okay, there is a past life, there is a future life. So likewise, now here Buddha is putting us into a fairly emotionally balanced state first of all. And at the supramundane level of samadhi, now we are in a better situation to work on the current self and to abandon it. So therefore it is quite sensible what you are doing, and no problem in that.
All right. Thank you, Bhante. That was thank you for the explanation. Many merits, Bhante. Thank you. Thero Sannai.
Yeah, Thero Sannai.
Thank you, Bhante. I believe that's the last of the questions for tonight.
Okay, fine. Okay, then we have spent fair amount of time today discussing Buddha's teaching and then practicing it shortly, as well as then listening to a Dhamma talk. And we'll share all these merits with past relatives, with all the celestial beings and whoever in need of merits. And especially, nowadays the country Sri Lanka is going through certain troublesome situation, and certain people have already passed away, and we pass these merits to all those who have suffered and to all those who have passed away. And again we wish these merits help the country to recover quickly, and whoever is suffering to be free from suffering as quickly as possible. And again we wish these merits help us also to attain path fruition Nibbana. We will recite the traditional verses. Ettavatacha amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavatacha amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavatacha amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe satta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Akasattha ca bummatta devanaga mahiddika punyantang anumoditva cirang rakkantu sasanang. Akasattha ca bummatta devanaga mahiddika punyantang anumoditva cirang rakkantu desanang. Akasattha ca bummatta devanaga mahiddika punyantang anumoditva cirang rakkantu mamparang. Idang vo ñātīnaṁ hotu sukitā hontu ñātayo. Idang vo ñātīnaṁ hotu sukitā hontu ñātayo. Idang vo ñātīnaṁ hotu sukitā hontu ñātayo. Imina punya kammena māme bāla samāgamo. Satang samāgamo hotu yāva nibbāna pattiyā. Idam me punya kammang āsavakkaya vahang hotu. Sabba dukkha pamuncatu.
Thank you, Bhante. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thero Sannai.
Yeah, Thero Sannai.
Bhante.
Thero Sannai.